Okay, so, dear listener, none of you asked for this. We thought of this on our own. So if you hate this, I'm sorry. You can tell me about it. It was my idea. Or Alton.
Well, I would say it was a joint idea.
We were trying to think of things that might make you like our podcast better, and this was one of them. The other one was sending you each a $2,000 stimulus check, but Mitch McConnell told us we couldn't do that. Okay, so we got the following questions from our listeners after we asked for your questions. Furry Mario is ass was the first one, which that's not a question, that's a statement.
No, it is a question, and the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes. Furry Mario is ass, canonically.
And that was submitted by our listener, Jonathan, who isn't a listener. He's part of the podcast. So
I listened to it. I listened to it.
You listened
Therefore,
to
I am a listener. Define a listener.
Okay, I'm not going to do that because
somebody
it's a
who
slippery
listens
slope.
to a podcast. Me. I listen to this podcast. Therefore, I'm a listener of this podcast, and I declare that Furry Mario is ass.
Okay, the second question we got is from our listener, Emma. And she asks, are you a man or a Muppet?
That's a really good question, Emma. I'm not sure that I can answer this question for all of the people on the podcast, but I personally am a Muppet of a man.
I like to think of myself as a very manly Muppet, but still a Muppet at the end of the day, especially when my hair is long.
I'm going straight Muppet for me, and specifically Beaker.
Wait, like
Yes.
orientation straight Muppet, or like you are 100%
100%. No defined sexuality.
I mean,
That's
Beaker,
good. I would be kind of worried.
Beaker
about
is
defining...
potentially in a different way, not sexual orientation, but like just like in terms of his shape, he is
Very
a straight
Muppet.
Muppet.
I don't think we need to body shame Beaker.
It's not body shaming.
I'm
it's
not body shaming him. I'm
No,
just
you're just kinda
I'm
putting
just
a label.
describing his.
All right, no, that's fine. Yeah, I get it.
Also, Beaker is only straight if you're looking at him head on. If you are a bird and looking, or if you're crawling on the ceiling and looking down on him, he's quite
Or if
round.
he's standing directly on top of your eye.
Yeah, that
yeah,
also.
or that.
Then
Which,
you're the one that's flat and straight. Because you've got someone standing on you.
Yeah. Which also, might be bad for your eye. So, dear listener, if that does happen to you, please go to the doctor.
If you happen to have a Beaker standing on your eye.
Megan, what do you think? Are you a man or a Muppet?
I'm neither man nor Muppet.
That
Do you care
qualifies
to
you
elaborate?
for killing one of the, I believe, the Witch King of Angmar.
Exactly.
If you live on Middle Earth. So,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah, so I'm qualified to kill the Witch King. I'm not a man, I'm not a Muppet. Just could potentially kill the Witch King.
Can you kill Macbeth?
Yeah, I can kill him too.
Nice.
And I would.
Can you give us like a little synopsis of why? Because
Why I would kill
I don't
Macbeth?
think I've ever actually watched Macbeth. Yeah.
Well, I have to get a little PG-13 here. But it's because Macbeth is a little bitch. And can't do
I thought it was that
anything
Macbeth
for
started
himself.
McDonald's.
No. That's
so-
McDonald
so
you're
he's
thinking of,
helpless?
actually.
Wasn't it started by like Ray Kroc, actually?
I don't know that much about McDonald's lore. I don't know why
Yeah,
you're asking me that.
Ray Kroc, the inventor of the crock pot, right?
And
Yeah.
Crocs.
And Crocs, yes.
This guy just had idea after idea, and he did not let anything
Quite the
stop him.
empire.
Truly
Yeah.
prolific.
I'm going to say we've probably got all we can out of the man or Muppet question. So the next question is, what happened to the raccoons? We also have, when are we getting that raccoon?
Well,
those are the only
let's-
two raccoon questions, actually.
Let's tackle each of these one at a time, Jared.
Oh, okay, sorry. What happened to the raccoons? Then that's from Young Flesh 1.
Well, they got left behind on Earth.
So you're telling me that when somebody was loading up a spaceship, that
Yeah.
probably cost several $1 million per ounce to put into orbit,
Yeah.
they decided that raccoons were not worth taking?
No.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
But there's
They
rats.
decide. Yeah. They
Have we
didn't-
seen rats on Edenia?
No.
Listeners,
Although you know what rats are, apparently,
I'm
because
currently re-listening all of it in my head, seeing if you ever said rat on the podcast.
yeah, no. Quest Jenkins thinks that the tunnels of, the tunnels of the Photonid treasure.
oh
like
yeah,
secret
that's
base.
right. Are in a rat-like style.
Yes.
Yes. So how would I know the style of a rat had I not seen one or interacted with one?
Well, it so happens that there are many ecological niches on the planet of Edenia, and one of those niches was filled by a creature that was rat-like, and came to be called by the name of rat.
So it's a
Surprisingly
rat.
simple.
It's an actual for real rat.
Yes, but it is of a different origin than the Earth
Just not
rat.
from Earth.
It is a
Is it
Dedenian
carbon-based?
rat.
Space rat.
Was it large? Kind of looks like it might be striped in color and have a mask-like pattern over its eyes. Is that the kind of rat we're describing?
That is a very, very good question, Josh. The answer is no.
They're not rats.
It was
It's
close.
thousands of tiny raccoons.
Thousands
Yeah,
of tiny
so-
raccoons in a in a rat colored peacoat,
Peacoat?
trench coat. I don't know what the word is.
That's wearing like a woolen. Where do we even get sheep to make a woolen peacoat?
Yeah, Alton, do sheep exist on Edenia?
All right. Anyways, this is a desperate plea to the listeners to pressure Alton into giving us mammals aside from humans. Give us mammals.
It was a dog, right?
Yeah.
Can I-
Yeah, there's
There
a
is a
there's
dog.
There was a dog.
Yeah, or is that just some weird ass like Edenian thing that has become called a dog?
I think it's just
Can I
a
ask
dog,
a follow-up
dude.
question?
Yeah.
So, when asked what happened to the raccoons, you said they were left on Earth.
Yeah.
My question is, what happened to Earth?
They were
I mean,
left on
there's still-
raccoons.
There's still people on Earth. It's about 4.5 light years away.
Okay, so we're not doing like Wall-E world. This is
No, it's not Wally World.
No, yeah, there's not great prices for
Always.
everyday items.
So like it's still populated and like.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are they
Well,
doing pretty good over there?
I'm not sure I would say normal. And no, they're not doing pretty good, but it's, as far as a dystopian apocalyptic world can go, Earth is doing great.
Is it
So
about
is it
the
like-
same as Edenia?
No.
Oh, go ahead, Megan.
I was gonna ask, is it like Hunger Games or like, what are the other dystopian things I read? A lot of them are just romances. Divergent, is it?
How many clans
Maze
are there on
Runner?
Earth?
Yeah.
And are they determined by occupation or personality?
I was honestly thinking more along the lines of 1984.
Or are they divided by ethnicity? In which case, that raises some pretty interesting problems.
I was thinking more of like an Orwellian dystopia
they're
rather
just-
than
They're arbitrarily put into 3 separate countries that constantly war each other to keep resources scarce.
yeah. And they
Nice.
also happen to be they also happen to be like pseudo-communist.
I thought you were going to say constipated.
All of the time.
Well, maybe they're that too.
All 3 of those countries are just constantly
You're eating way too
constipated.
much cheese.
That's all they can eat.
All Big Brother gives them.
That and raccoon protein.
Is there still raccoons there?
That's a good question, Alton. So the question is, what happened to the raccoons? So like they got left behind, sure, but beyond that, are they extinct?
No, they're not extinct. Why would the raccoons be extinct? They are well adapted to living in urban environments, and humans are really good at making everything into an urban environment.
All right, so they're doing fine. Pretty much
Yeah.
the same stuff they were doing before.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit more intelligent because they've had an additional 1,000 years to adapt, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, no, they're just chilling on Earth, doing raccoon things.
Okay. So this question comes from our listener, Megan.
I actually
And-
don't
and they
listen
asked-
though, but it's fine.
Wait, Megan, you
Sorry.
don't listen to the episodes of the podcast at all. You just play and then that's it.
Yeah.
Our cast member, editor, and Instagram follower.
Not listener though.
No.
Are you serious though? You don't actually like?
I don't know what kind of time you think I have.
No, I mean that's fair. I'm not. This is not a judgment of you. I was just curious if you were joking or not joking.
No, I'm not joking. So if I ever forget about plot points in between episodes, that's why.
That's why. Okay. Okay, Alton. You heard the question. What's your response?
My answer is that in another time, in another world, the Dark Crystal.
Got the
That's it?
podcast
Just leave it
taken
hanging
down
right there. You're
because
not
of
going to
that
finish the
plagiarism.
sentence.
Yeah, I can't say any more of the intro of the Dark Crystal, or it'll be like DMCA stuff. So
I took some DMCA one weekend. It was pretty crazy.
had to take down all your content because of it.
Yes.
Isn't that where they sent me for the summer camp? Swimming, basketball.
The DMCA.
DMCA.
It's fun to stay at the DMCA.
The
If you
Dorky
just-
Men's Christian Association.
That was probably it.
Pretty accurate, actually. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't call you a dork, but I'm fairly dorky. Okay, the last question we received from our Instagram Q questionnaire is, why is Kentucky Slim? And that's from Alton, our dungeon master. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that.
And so this exists in the universe simultaneously with Edenia.
I don't know. We didn't really specify like the time frame, but
He's definitely extinct by the time our story takes place.
And
At
the
least we
episode
hope so.
Ceased to exist.
Well, we'll put it this way: he exists in the same galaxy, but with current human technology, it would take a prohibitively long time to find and reach Kentucky Slim World.
which was a tender mercy to the humans, according to everybody else on this podcast. Okay, so now that we've exhausted those questions, I've got a couple.
Why is
Oh.
Kentucky Slim?
Oh, why? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
'Cause
Thank
he
you.
doesn't eat a lot.
Why is Kentucky?
All right. That's it.
Cue outro music.
Why is Kentucky Slim? Kentucky Slim is because that's the kind of thing that I think about when left to my own devices. My imagination is full of interesting creatures like that, and
They
and you're
live
welcome.
Rent-free in his mind.
I was I was a little bit surprised with the reaction I got because I thought it was going to be like kind of a fun thing, but no, it was horrifying apparently.
I mean, I still like it, but I think that Jonathan and Jonathan and Megan and Berkeley may have found it more disturbing than I did. But when
Yeah,
you first told me
undoubtedly.
about it, I was like 100% on board. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I love it.
So, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how horrifying is Kentucky Slim? I'll go first. 3.
I'll go next. 10.
Yeah, I'm sitting at a solid 8 or 9. Just like Like, if you saw Kentucky Slim, let's say you're walking down the street and a Kentucky Slim tentacle arms around the corner, smiling, and says, "Oh, hi there. Excuse me. I'm just on my way to pick up some groceries." Would you shoot him? I
No.
would.
No.
Yeah, without even thinking.
No, I'd be like, wow, what are you? I've never seen one of you before.
Wow. Okay. No, it's just the gaping maw, the giant eye. It's just no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, for me, I feel like, I don't know, Kentucky Slim's like a 1 or a 2. I mean, like, he seems like he'd be a friendly creature.
Yeah, that's exactly what somebody who's been groomed by Kentucky Slim would say.
Let's just remember that time Kentucky Slim could have held up 4 fingers to indicate the number 4, and instead flipped onto his back and waved 4 noodle legs in the air.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
It was
So
a
I
very
feel like I
small-
think it was
can't
perfectly reasonable.
I feel like I can't put Kentucky Slim on a 1 to 10 scale, so instead I'm going to rate it as a Bartok from the movie Anastasia.
Bartok
I
is
love
way less
Bartok.
terrifying. If I saw Bartok, I would smile. If I saw Kentucky Slim, I would murder him.
I've only seen Anastasia once.
Jared.
And
I
Bartok
have-
is like the bat friend of the bad guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Rasputin's bat friend.
But he's
I
also
have
his own
never
person.
seen Anastasia.
Alden.
There's also a really cheap one-off called Bartok the Magnificent, where he's the main character. That is not worth watching.
So, Berkeley, are you saying that you find Bartok like mildly horrifying?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's like you guys weren't little girls in the 90s watching Anastasia.
There's a lot like that.
I guess we just didn't have sisters, so
Yeah, that's fair.
Here's the thing with... Well, I don't want to get too off track, but just let me quickly justify why Bartok is horrifying, and this echoes my feelings about Kentucky Slim. Bartok, like, goes to the underworld and deals with witchcraft all the time, and it doesn't even faze him. That creature is, like, both pathetic and weak, and also too powerful at the same time. Just like Kentucky Slim.
That actually is a very, very good description of Kentucky Slim in action.
pathetic and weak, and also too powerful at the same time.
Well, regardless of your feelings about Bartok, I think we can all agree that Kentucky Slim should probably stay in the world of imagination. Alton,
Yeah.
how did Edenia, the universe of Edenia, come to be in your head? When did you think of this? What inspired it? Whose work are you ripping off? Because you're obviously not that creative.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with where I got the idea for Edenia. Long time ago, I was living in a faraway land, and
Called Oregon?
I had a dream. So actually, long story short, when I was living in Brazil, I got Zika virus, and I had a couple of weeks where I was just like having like really bad fevers and headaches and like itching all over, and it was super awesome. I ended up going to the hospital and all kinds of fun stuff. But
So Edenia is your own personal hell based on that experience?
no, Edenia is a fever dream that I had during that sickness. And more specifically, I had a fever dream about the human invasion of Edenia. So, yeah.
So when my brother dreams, he dreams of genocide.
His escape.
I guess I dreamed of it from the perspective of the Edenians, like trying to resist the invasion. But
Sounds Sounds like kind of a cop-out to save face.
So you woke up from that dream and you were like, dang,
Yeah.
that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a podcast now.
No. At that time, I thought that I wanted to make a video game of it, and
And maybe we still will.
yeah, it could happen.
Bethesda,
The premise.
if you're listening, we
The
have licensing
premise-
options.
So you're finally awake. No, the premise was that the humans had developed a zombie virus, essentially. That they sent these probes down onto Adenia to like infect the local populations with, and it just like spread like crazy.
Oh, so
until
it's like coronavirus.
I mean, yes, except without the conspiracy theory angle that you're taking.
So it spread like crazy until
Most of the Adenians were zombies or dead from fighting zombies, and then the human colonizers were able to just come in, land, unload their frozen cryogenesis people, and start, stripping the planet for resources. And then they started building cities and etc. And 1,000 years later, here we are.
So follow up, I guess, to that. Josh, you played in a campaign that was set in this world.
Yep.
And I think you knew that going into the podcast, that it was kind of the same world.
I had seen a lot of parallels with the underground zombie kind of culture, and but I remember there being a very heavy crystal, Covfefe, I believe was what it was called.
The Covfefe crystal.
The Covfefe crystal. Yeah.
That really puts a timestamp on when.
Dang, that
when
hurts.
that
That was
came
so
out.
long ago. Oh.
Keep going.
Did it match what you were expecting it to be? Is it similar enough that you felt like, oh, I could see the character I played being a part of this?
Oh yeah, definitely. Back then I was a recon droid, and it kind of fits in with everything that we've understood about the technology of the time. And I think you're still running Savage Worlds, which was the same thing that we were running. So to my understanding and what I've heard, it sounds pretty much parallel. And I could definitely see that existence being parallel, or at least the same universe for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we could do a spin-off. If I ever get kicked off this podcast, you and I can.
I mean, from my memory of playing with Josh, you took like extensive notes of everything that happened in that campaign.
Yep, I still have it on Google Drive if anyone wants to read it.
I actually might like the link if you want to email that to me.
Yeah, I can do
Translation.
For reference.
I didn't take notes on that. And now
I forgot all my good ideas.
I want to do this in a way that I don't have to think of new ideas. Can I just use the old ones that you wrote down?
Oh boy. But yeah, same world.
So this one is for Megan. And by the way, if you guys have other questions, definitely jump in. These are the things that I was thinking of while I was preparing for this podcast, for this
I've got
episode.
one when you're ready, but let's do this one first.
Okay. So Sienna as a character is cold, is a little narcissistic,
Yeah.
but is very focused. Is there a kinder side? Is there a hidden, like we talk about the parallel to Toph a little bit in terms of the inception of the character, or the inspiration of the character, I should say.
Yeah.
And like you see Toph, like when she gets saved from drowning by Suki, and she's like, Sokka, you saved me, and then Suki's like, oh, it was actually me. You can just let me drown now.
Yeah. She's cute.
Is there any of that? Are we going to see that, or are you going to try to focus it more into like the aggression and the kind of the? I don't know if we've seen a lot of rage, but when I imagine Sienna, I imagine somebody she's not afraid to commit violence at all, and in some ways, I would say that she looks to commit violence maybe more than a normal, healthy person might.
She's definitely not a normal, healthy person. Let's just say that, first of all. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think my thing when I play characters is I say that I let out asshole Megan, and then that's usually what my characters are. So I just say what asshole Megan would say, or like what asshole Megan would do. So like me, but I try to be nice in real life, but sometimes I really, just want to like punch somebody or whatever, and so I let Sienna do that. But I do think she does care about people. I think that because of the situations and the circumstances in which she was raised, she's not very good at being kind and genuine. Growing up as super wealthy, everyone around her was very calculating in their interactions with her and with others, and so I think that's how she views social interactions. And since being with, her new friends, I guess, or co-workers, shall we call them, she's starting to see a little bit more of like, oh, people can be just kind of nice and kind. And so I think she's tried a little bit, like when she started helping Niop, tried to heal her a little bit, and I was like, wow, thank you so much. And she's like, oh, cool, I can do something productive that helps people. I think that was a big thing for her, and I think she's tried to help out. I mean, she saved Quest's life like 5 million times. So she does.
Or did Quest save his own life by manipulating Sienna?
I don't think that's
You baited
it.
her into it.
I don't.
Power of the
You're like,
mustache.
Hey, all
Charles
I'm
from
saying
Brooklyn
is I got
Nine-Nine.
high convincing stats, and you don't know
I mean-
what I've said to the DM behind the
I
scenes.
also, she also has very high persuasion, so I don't think she would be easy to manipulate. Anyway, so back on track. I think she is maybe starting to soften up a little bit, and I think I'll try and show that a little bit more in the future as well, because it's definitely been good for her to spend time with not rich people who are sometimes nice.
Did you mean rich in spirit people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Okay, Berkeley. Shoot your shot. 2021.
So my question is for everyone to answer for their characters, and Alton, you can answer for Niop or Jerry or someone if you feel inclined.
I want to hear Jerry's
But-
take on this.
So I recently played the Mistborn Adventure game RPG, and one of the things that they emphasize in that system is having things that your characters think they need, and then having things that they actually need that they don't realize they need yet. And so I'm curious what everyone's take is on what they think their character thinks they need and what their character actually needs. And I can start.
Man,
so
the meta on this is painful.
let's walk through it together. I think we'll all come out okay on the other end. So the sketch, I drew a lot on my teenage self with all of his weaknesses and quirks.
Slow, little,
Did you only have one leg?
titanium leg.
Yeah, I only had one leg. It grew back, thankfully.
Wow.
Terrible high school experience, I would imagine.
No, it's
yeah.
just cross country. They made him run until one of his legs fell off.
Makes sense.
So I think what Sketch thinks he needs at this point is to validate himself through achievements. He thinks that if he can contribute enough or demonstrate enough skill, that he will finally feel good enough, which is something that he hasn't had so far in life. And so I think that's why he emphasizes every time he hacks something successfully, and why he is always trying to be better at shooting people well. because he feels like he needs tangible accomplishments in order to feel good about himself. When in reality, I think what he really needs is to just feel comfortable with who he is and recognize the positive relationships in his life, and really focus on those as his sense of validation, as just feeling part of a community instead of needing to constantly prove his worth within that community.
That's really interesting.
Wow.
As I was listening to kind of what you were describing, Berkeley, I had a question come into my head that we can get to later or we can get to now. So it's up to you. If we want to move on, we can.
Yeah, let's circle back on that. I want to hear what everyone else thinks they...
Write it down so you don't forget, Jared.
Cool. I'll write it down right now. Okay, Berkeley, popcorn someone.
I popcorn you.
But I'm writing. Hang on.
Oh, shoot. Never mind. Jonathan, do you want to go?
Yeah, Quest is, at some point, everybody's character is a reflection of themselves to some degree. Quest is kind of not sure what he wants in life, so he's not really looking for anything in specific, but he's just kind of seeing what's out there, and doing what he has to do to continue existing and, that just being alive.
That seems completely different from your current situation, Jonathan.
Whew. In reality, what does Quest need? Again, I honestly don't know. I haven't thought that hard about Quest's character nor his story arc. But I think he will find that pursuing his passions is important. But I don't even know what Quest is passionate about. I think Quest just mustaches. Yeah. No, I think Quest is just kind of in an exploratory phase of himself, and he just needs to do a lot of drugs. No, I think Quest is just waiting to see where life takes him, and so I don't think he really needs anything in specific, other than to continue moving forward and seeing what happens, and looking for the right opportunities.
See, I disagree. From my interactions with Quest Jenkins, I feel like Quest is like trading away the things that are really important to him for a false sense of freedom.
Okay.
Just with his gambling and the reference to his like past friends that are, nowhere to be found now.
Yeah.
And I feel like he needs to get in touch with what's like actually important to him again.
Well, I disagree. I think losing what's important to him happened in the past, and he can't really do anything about that now, or at least he feels like he can't. And that's why he's waiting to see where life takes him and looking for the right opportunity when it presents itself.
That's fair. I think Quest is more complicated than maybe either of us realizes.
I smell a railroad coming.
You did just say that Quest needed opportunities.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to roast Alton for railroading at any opportunity I get. Even though he doesn't really railroad us.
I wouldn't say he doesn't at all.
Do you remember that one time we were on a railroad? Like underground?
Yeah,
Oh, you're
that's
right. He did
that's
that
the one time we really got railroaded.
You're right. That did happen.
Okay, I popcorn Alton,
Okay.
what does Edenia want, and what does Edenia truly need? Batman.
Edenia does not want Batman. Edenia does not need Batman.
Does it deserve Batman?
Edenia doesn't even deserve Batman.
Edenia is trash.
Honestly, I think it depends on which person on Edenia you ask. Because there's a lot of problems with Edenia and Edenian, and the society that can be found there, and the different cities and governments and power structures. I think if you were to ask Oberon, Edenia needs more connection with nature and more,
Equality, economic equality.
economic equality and sustainability, and care about individuals rather than about corporations and like groups. But if you ask, if you were to ask the head of like Gematech, for example, they might say that they think that Edenia needs
More cheap labor.
more cheap labor and to stop stressing out about individual people having a hard time, and look at all of the technological advances and societal as a whole, quote unquote good that has been done by the corporations. Now, whether that's an accurate picture is debatable, but I think anyone you ask is going to have a different answer to that question. I don't know. To turn it around, what do you guys think Edenia thinks it needs? And what do you think
you can't turn it around.
needs?
You can't turn it around.
I can't. I totally can.
Because then we have to answer 2 levels deep of one question. We still haven't finished
So-
Berkeley's original question.
Let me just chip this in real quick. I think Edenia thinks it needs protection from invasive species. What Edenia really needs is raccoons.
Hey! All right, that's it.
Yeah.
Next person, Megan, go.
But yeah, okay, popcorn Megan.
Thank you. So I think we have seen that Sienna thinks that she needs to, prove herself that she's more than just some silly rich girl who doesn't know how to do anything. I feel like she also thinks she needs to, show her parents that she can live life without them. What she really needs is, it's so cheesy, but she needs just like people who really care about her, like friends, whoever, who just kind of stick with her, even, no matter what she does, and to kind of have someone melt her frozen heart, to quote a movie that I'm not going to name because it's probably trademarked.
Can you still say the title? I'll edit it out.
It's Frozen.
It's
You're talking
frozen,
about Frozen.
Jared. It's frozen.
What? What?
It's frozen.
Real? Oh my goodness.
Okay. Popcorn Jared.
Okay. So I don't have a great answer here for what Janet actually needs, but maybe I'll stumble my way into one like I do with so many other things in this podcast. Usually stumble into creepy situations, but sometimes it works out. Janet thinks she needs redemptions from her past as a soldier for the syndicates and from the damage she's done to the families of those people she's killed. As a nurse robot, family is important to her because that's kind of her purpose, right? Is to nurture, is to help grow. But she was changed from that to be a tool, and she was a very effective tool.
Total
But
tool.
a total, complete 100% tool. But I think what Janet actually needs, and not to be repetitive here, but I would say that Janet needs a family. She needs someone to care for. She needs that family to give her a purpose. And so to her, her group is kind of her family, that she cares about, that she protects, that she would sacrifice herself for. And yet, in saying that, I don't think that she's really achieved that yet. Or she doesn't realize that is the direction she should go, if that makes sense. She's always looking for friends, most of whom end up dead immediately after she decides that they're friends.
Or before.
Or before. It's a good point, Berkeley. But I think that she doesn't know if she can really count on Sienna as a friend, if she can really count on Quest as a friend. I think that she trusts Sketch because of Sketch's innocence, and his naivety. Because I don't want to put bounds on your character, Berkeley, but I think those two things absolve Sketch of responsibility for what the group as a whole has done so far.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Sketch is largely along for the ride and hopefully not too culpable for what he does at this point.
DM, please don't send me to prison. I'm too young.
You guys have already been in prison.
Oh yeah.
That's true. Spoiler, Josh.
Yikes.
Okay, who hasn't gone yet? I think that's everyone, right?
I popcorn Josh because I'm curious about his perspective about what Adenia needs based on his experience in our campaign as well as from the podcast. What Adenia needs or thinks it needs versus what it really needs.
Yeah, that's a great question. From the experiences that I had, and from what I've heard, it just seems like oh man, I need more podcast time, guys, to get some practice in. I think that Adenia really needs some direction, some focus. Everything that I've experienced is very lawless and everyone thinks they know what they want, and everyone's pulling in different directions, but no one really understands what's really important. And I feel like that can be argued from every point of view, right? That like Oberon and his group feel very strongly, but it's at odds with what everybody else wants, what everyone else needs. There's no middle ground. And so it's hard for, I think, there to be any lasting peace in a place like Adenia, I guess in the world at large, because no one can really understand what's important for everyone. It's easy to see for ourselves or for our families, but overarching what's best for Adenia isn't going to be what's best for Oberon or what's best for Jerry or what's best for Janet. It's going to be a lot more gray area than that, I think.
So Josh, that's an interesting answer to me, because if we're talking gray area, you take Adenia as a whole, put them all in one basket. What's the best thing for Adenia? I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but kind of what I'm getting is order. Is order to bring the chaos in check.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting...
They need more kids with police revolvers, is what I'm saying.
Welcome to my new empire.
So you're saying that Adenia needs a lot more ass.
Everyone should be enrolled from here on out, yeah. I just think that, there is so much lawlessness, right, that things are getting blown up, people are being shot, right, for someone's sense of right or wrong. But if there was more order, right, the life of Oberon and his people would be better if they weren't living in the Dark Forest, or I don't remember exactly what was it just called, the Dark Forest?
Yeah, I think so.
Black Forest Ham.
The Black
there it
Forest.
was.
I'm sorry.
Black Forest Ham. Yeah. His people would be better suited if they had, a fair shot outside of the forest. if they had better access to healthcare, because it sounds like the Edenian people really don't have doctors even. But then you have those other people that are making billions as corporations, and I think if there was more order and everyone was lumped together, as you say, there might be a better output for everyone. But
be careful
hard to
how
say.
literally your GM interprets everyone was
But
lumped together.
But it's not the
Ooh.
individual good. It's
Yep.
not the individual good, and that means that even people who deserve better than what they get have to be satisfied in this world, right? In this
And it doesn't work
order.
that way, which is why this isn't an answer and why we haven't just solved world peace. People have to accept self-sacrifice, I think, but no one's going to be okay with that.
Yeah, because it's not fun to sacrifice. It doesn't feel good to sacrifice. I find this philosophically fascinating because in the real world, that is a really interesting debate. Can everybody get a
Quote unquote happy ending.
yeah, and to realize that so much of our economic prosperity in America has come from the exploitation of people elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they deserve better. And that means that we have to accept that we can't live like this forever. It has to come to an end if we want everybody to be treated well. So anyways,
Once the mic goes off, we can talk more.
yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, but I'm fascinated by that. Anybody have any other questions for Josh about that or comments they want to add? Okay, so since I'm hearing silence, Berkeley, Sketch isn't a killer, but he's been thrust into a world of violence. How is this experience changing Sketch's perspective on violence and how he values life? Is he violent because of peer pressure? Like what is the effect of being with the group on Sketch?
So I think there's two parts to that. The first thing is that he, as has been brought up many times, I took the delusional hindrance when I was creating Sketch. So specifically, he doesn't believe that zombies are real, and then in general, he's apt to believe any conspiracy theory he comes across, or even create his own. And part of, I think, what we see in the world today is that people radicalize themselves by surrounding themselves with people that will support their worldviews. And so that's kind of what I had in mind when I was creating Sketch, is that he has been radicalized, not to any specific violent tendencies or any specific agendas, but just in general, he's at a point in life where he's willing to accept kind of crazy ideas. And so I think the violence that he's suddenly being exposed to feeds off of that upbringing that he had. I think the second part, you used the phrase peer pressure, and I think that's a little too strong because Sketch is actively looking for any influence to follow. When he left Ask School, he wanted to go become a real adventurer, and to him, that's what everyone else in the party is. Janet and Quest and Sienna are all real adventurers, and he wants to be like them because they're the real thing. And so he is just really, he's a sponge, just soaking up everything that they do and doing his best to fit in, whether or not there's any actual external pressure on him. That's what he wants to do.
I know for me as a listener, it's been interesting hearing about his kind of delusions and wondering where they stem from. I know that in one episode you mentioned that even his parents, I believe, were a little delusional or of the same opinion that maybe zombies didn't exist. Do you feel like that's been a long-running family thing, or is that something that started with his parents?
Oh, yeah, I haven't really mapped out the personalities of my whole family tree.
Going back generations, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is probably like a new idea in Edenia, and so his parents probably both just fell into that belief maybe after they were married, but before Sketch was born, and so he's just always lived with it.
That makes sense. Thank you.
So that brings up an interesting point that we could kind of compare to today's world in real land, not imagined land. Alton, the introduction in your dream, the introduction of the zombie virus by humans to colonize the planet, and then later, 1,000 years down the road, the same humans looking at it and saying, "Oh, that's not even real. That's not even a thing." You're running away from a bad thing that happened that you might feel responsible for because you're part of the group that instigated it. And that it's convenient. It feels better to not be responsible, to not have to confront the fact that the people that brought you here, that gave you this life, that, your version of the founding fathers, the colonizers, made your life possible, and to accept that they did a horrible thing in the process. I imagine that could be very difficult for some people and highly contested, and I think we see a similar thing here. I don't know how much we want this to actually go into the episode that we're making right now, but that nugget that you dropped, Alton, when you described the origin was an interesting connection to Berkeley's character's delusion.
Yeah, I thought so too. I didn't really take it that far, but it is very interesting considering it from that perspective.
So could we back up a bit? I'd like to ask Sienna a similar question, or Megan a similar question about Sienna. Sienna grew up stealing things from members of her household, and now she's shooting people to get what she wants. How do you see Sienna's relationship with violence, and is this difficult for her, or is it a natural transition?
I think, I feel like she hadn't shot people before all of this started going down. I kind of like to think that the first person she killed in this storyline or whatever was the first person she'd ever killed. And I think she, like, growing up with her friends, she had always been, one of the more daring ones in her group. Like, I don't know, she was always the person you could dare to do something and she'd do it. And I think she was always scared to do that, but I think she kind of wants to find out herself, like, if she has the guts to do things like that. And so she shot whoever, I don't know who, was it a guard? I don't remember. She's killed a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a guard.
Okay, it was a guard.
In the tube station.
Yeah. And so she shot at them, like, not for fun. Like, she's not a psychopath. But I'm pretty sure she's not. But she did know, okay, we're in danger. We probably need to shoot these people in order to get away. I don't know if I can kill someone. And then she did. And she's like, okay, guess I can do that. I don't think it affected her as much as maybe she thought it would. Or maybe even as much as she wanted it to. I think she's also kind of trying to see, like, am I a normal person, or is there something inherently wrong with me? And I think that by, shooting and killing people, she kind of wants it to feel bad, but it just doesn't. And part of that, too, is, like, they're not people she knows. She doesn't view them as really, like, people. That's part of her, rich girl side, is she doesn't view other people as people sometimes. And so when she just kills random guards or Edenians or whatever, it doesn't affect her as much as maybe she thought it would. So in that sense, it's not like she learned violence from her parents or her friends or anything, but she's always been kind of like pushing boundaries with her parents and with other people. And so the violence that she does was kind of just another boundary for her to, like, push against and see what would happen.
That's really interesting.
Would you say that she views the people that she's killed as, like, non-player characters in a game?
Yeah, maybe.
Novel.
Sorry, I had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're non-player characters, like, in her life, so.
Yeah, that's very true.
There are just to highlight this, there are people who actually think that way in real life. They actually call people who don't believe in the same things as they do NPCs, and it's kind of a popular thing amongst extremists to
I'm glad I didn't know about 4chan when I was a middle schooler. That's all I have to say about that.
It's a popular thing to characterize your enemies, if you will, as non-human or subhuman, or like even not real, to make your otherwise inappropriate actions seem somehow more acceptable.
So, does that mean you consider raccoons to be your enemy? They just don't exist in Adenia?
No, there's a difference between there's a difference between not actually existing and classifying
Still
something
fair.
as subhuman.
Okay.
So raccoons are the same as humans.
No,
I don't think that's.
And
no,
logically,
that's not the logical conclusion there.
Sorry, I'm a little delusional.
So, oh man, I had a question to follow up on that. Oh yeah, this is for Megan. So, you're kind of describing Sienna as like seeking for something to make her feel, to make her, to have an impact on her, to this probably isn't really accurate, but like to make it feel real, to make her understand herself.
Sure. Yeah.
And to me, I mean, we've talked about space weed a little bit,
Have we?
but when
Yeah, we
I
have.
Oh, okay.
see
I can't confirm as a listener. You haven't. You have talked about space weed.
Oh, okay. I don't listen.
when I see someone like exhibiting those traits, some people have turned to drugs, and Berkeley, some of the people that we knew pre-high school and then going into high school and seeing them get into drugs and like change, that was it affected me a lot, and I didn't really understand that wasn't like a normal thing to see happen around you until I moved to a tiny town where that doesn't happen a ton. Would you say that Sienna is on that trajectory? Like, is she?
I think she's even
Is she,
Oh, sorry. You finish.
go ahead. No.
I think she's already tried that side of it before. She's definitely dabbled in, the space harder drugs that rich people do.
Designer space drugs.
Designer space cocaine. Because that's what her friends did. And I think she didn't get as much of a reaction from that even as she was hoping. I mean, I feel kind of weird saying this because Megan has never done drugs, and so I don't know anything about them. But I do know from high school health class that the effects are not lasting, and they don't make you feel good in the long run. But often people who try those or even form addictions to them just do it to fill some kind of hole somewhere. I think she realized quickly that it wasn't filling the hole, and so there was no point in doing it anymore. So,
Interesting.
yeah, I don't think
That was kind of going
that's
to
a
be
thing.
my follow-up, is like, is she an addict? But no, she's not, because she has
No.
the self-presence to understand.
I
I'd
would
say
argue,
she likes alcohol, but
yeah, I would argue that she may be an addict in other ways, or she may struggle with addictive tendencies in other ways. Like, because definitely we've seen her kind of be a lot more focused on alcohol than any of the other characters that we've seen.
yeah, I think she views that as less harmful than drugs. Like, I don't think she views it as affecting her as much as she definitely saw friends get addicted to, there's always like some kind of drug called spice in space universes or whatever it was, space cocaine, I don't know. She saw friends go down that path, and she's like, that's not something I'd want to do. But I don't think she views alcohol in the same vein as that, like on the same level. It's like much more minor. It's just a vice. It's not like an addiction or a problem. But it could become a problem.
I just want to Just want to give a quick plug to everyone at home. If you think you need therapy, RPGs are much cheaper.
Well, that said, if you even wonder if you need therapy, definitely go get therapy.
That too.
As a person who has struggled with addictive tendencies and also psychological disorders, therapy is critical, or has been critical for me anyway, in being able to overcome those things and like learn how to deal with those urges and those feelings in appropriate, healthy ways. So,
Absolutely. Therapy's great.
don't
What I meant to say,
yeah, don't
without disparaging therapy, was we're addressing important issues through our games in a way that's fun and safe.
Oh, yeah,
And it builds
absolutely.
friendship and connection, which
And-
can help with addiction.
Yeah.
In addition to therapy, like another not coping mechanism, another tool in the tool belt, so to say.
Yeah.
Time for another therapy session.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my Sokka impression. That was my Sokka doing a therapist impression.
Yeah, I got that. Nice.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a question specifically for Quest Jenkins.
Okay.
No, not for you, Jonathan, for Quest.
Oh, okay.
Wow, good job.
Quest, if you had to change the style of your mustache, what styles of
Handlebars.
mustache would you consider to be options? Handlebar mustache?
Yeah, I mean, there's many good mustaches, of course, but right now I've got the Space Magnum Space PI, also known as the Kando Laurisian, which is a very respectable mustache, but I think something that comes down the sides to the goatee, except no goatee between. I've heard that called a handlebar mustache before, but I've also heard of the knobs turned up on the sides being called a handlebar mustache. So I suppose it's what you consider a handlebar. Kind of changes the definition of the mustache, but both of those would be very acceptable. I've
Okay.
also considered doing the mustache into lamb chops, which,
Oh.
you know, we may or may not
going
see
for the
in future season. I mean, in a few months.
going for the going for the General Burnsides.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
Style.
I'd really call them quest sides.
Okay.
I have a follow up
Side quest?
question.
Yeah.
Side quests.
That was funny,
Side
Jared. I'm
quest.
sorry.
That was good.
Wow. Okay.
My follow up is, when did Quest grow his mustache? How old?
7
was he?
years old. 7.
Okay, but how old was he really?
7 years old.
All right. Well, that's just
So
patently
Quest
untrue.
has some like hormone imbalance stuff going on a little
And
bit.
it was thick and full at 7.
What was his voice like at 7?
Do you really need to ask?
Oh no.
All right, Quest Jenkins. This next question is for you again.
Again? Wow, okay.
What is in your fanny pack?
I reach inside
Nothing, because it got cut in half.
and pull out
Don't do it.
nothing because it did get cut in half. So I truly have nothing.
I'm sorry.
I think most of a deck of cards is all that was left.
And half of a middle finger, maybe.
and half. Oh no! On which hand? I'm fine with losing half of the left middle finger because that hand's scrapped anyways.
Okay.
I love how you call it scrapped. Like you're gonna throw it in the scrap bin and write it off.
Yeah, it's a hand write-off. Totally normal.
I do have one for you, Jonathan.
Okay.
So you, I mean, not to insult Quest, but he is kind of not that smart.
Wow. Okay. Sure. Go ahead.
Like, he's clever, he can be quick-witted, he's funny, but there's also kind of a clueless, bumbling, out of touch, or silly to the point of, like, really? Does he really, is this actually what he's thinking, or is he just sarcastic on a level that people aren't getting? I'm a robot, so I guess I can't really tell what sarcasm is.
Thanks, Janet.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help you. Do you require any other assistance?
No,
Ooh, no, please.
that's enough for now, Janet.
So when you were creating this character, did you imagine him to be that way, or is that something that you kind of developed when you saw the chemistry of the group?
No, it's really just kind of developed on its own. Yeah, I can't really speak to like crafting a character. Quest Jenkins has just kind of sprayed forth out of my loin. No, hold on. Yeah, Quest is kind of dumb, where dumbness is funny, and he's smart when it's useful. And I think that just adds to the chemistry of the group, and honestly just makes for a good podcast and good comic relief. You always need the kind of dumb guy that can pull it out when he needs to. And by it, I do not mean
A middle finger.
No, he pulls those out all the time. So would you say then that Quest Jenkins is the Jar Jar Binks of Edenia?
So the thing is that I said smart when he needs to be, and
That is a big difference.
I also said interesting character. I also distinctly remember saying useful to the plot.
Adds to the group.
Yep.
Okay.
Now they do
Fair
both
enough.
check
Not
the
horrifying
box.
looking.
Not accidentally voting to allow Space Hitler to do his thing.
That was not accidental. Jar Jar knew full well what he was getting himself into.
Jar Jar was for Space Hitler, and Quest would never vote for Space Hitler.
Sketch, this next question is for you.
All right.
You seem to have really taken a liking to Quest Jenkins, and I was just wondering, like, what about him fascinates you, and why do you feel compelled to emulate him?
Well, I wouldn't say emulate. We're like, we're kind of peers at this point. We're both adventurers, right?
Fair,
Right.
fair enough.
But when I first met him, I was pretty new to this whole. I don't know if you could tell, but I was pretty new to this whole, vocation, and it seemed like Quest just had his stuff together. So I'm always trying to learn from whomever I can learn from, and he was available.
Okay.
Sketch is trying really hard not to come off as fanboying, but inside he is.
I see. Okay.
He did a really good job, honestly. I thought you were
That's
kind of like trying to undersell him, actually.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to appear vulnerable in front of his idol.
Oh, that's fair.
Wait, is Quest here? Is he going to hear this?
Oh yeah, he's listening.
Okay, then yep, that's what I have to say. Can I ask Josh a question?
Absolutely. Do I need to do a funny voice? Or is this
Yeah,
sufficient?
do your Josh impression, please.
I was going to ask you what your favorite moments from each character were, but then I realized that was just hardcore compliment fishing. So instead, I want to ask you to come up with some hypothetical situations that you think would just totally blow our characters' minds because they were not prepared for them. Like, what if you were a DM just trying to mess with us as much as possible? What would you throw at each person?
Oh man, that's tough. I think it'd be interesting for Sienna if her family actually did show up and was legitimately concerned for her well-being, because she read those emails and she just, for her, perceived it as not really sincere. So I would be curious to see what would happen if they literally sacrificed their fortunes to come and find her at the edge of Edenia and really missed her, how she would respond to that. So that's one answer. I think for Quest, I'm not sure that I have a great answer for his character. He's so nonchalant about many things. For Sketch, it's hard because I feel like as a DM I'd want to confront him a lot with his delusions. And so whether that's a news report of the ass school going under, right? It comes out as completely fraudulent, or he meets the head organizer someday and he's just this fat old guy that has never adventured in his life. I feel like I would want to confront him with the reality of this universe a lot. As far as Janet goes, I don't know if I have a great answer for that either. Putting a child android at risk might be an interesting ploy. She has a lot of, connection to children, but I don't know. I feel like, I don't know.
I think that would definitely throw Janet. I mean, any situation where Janet would have to put a child in danger in order to achieve a goal or move forward, I guess, in whatever she's pursuing, that would be a big moral dilemma for her. If it's an android child, that confronts her value of what is life?
Yeah.
And you haven't listened to episode 10 yet, so I'm not going to go any farther than that. But those are the kinds those are the types of questions that Janet really struggles with, more than probably is actually reasonable, and probably more than is even convenient for the rest of the party.
Those are great scenarios. I hope Alton wasn't taking notes.
Sleeping.
Whoa, what? Sorry, I just heard my name.
I was getting a snack while you guys were doing the super important thing.
So what is everyone's thoughts regarding Quest? What would be a scenario that he might struggle with as a character?
Getting his mustache shaved.
Math puzzles.
I was going to say that losing 5/6 of the space cape was about as close as you can get, but yeah, I think
that was
if
pretty devastating.
Someone threw some acid on his mustache and it just dissolved
or
away.
7/8 of a mustache being lost.
If I wanted to really challenge Quest, so sorry to side with Alton on this one, Jonathan, but I do think that Quest doesn't really understand or hasn't really come to terms with the reality of what he's lost. Or at least we haven't seen that really yet.
Yeah.
And if I were to try to throw Quest for a loop, I would probably put him in a situation where he sees what happened to I don't remember the name of the person that you lost, but it was a female name.
I believe her name is Ren.
Yes.
Ren. Like Kylo Ren?
Yes, I lost Kylo Ren.
You're nothing. You're nobody. But not to me. Sorry. So that's what I would try to do, is maybe put Ren into a situation where you see her from afar, like you can't really do anything, but you see something bad happening to her, so you know that whatever you did that caused you to lose her, this is the result of that. These are the consequences of your choices, or the results of bad luck or whatever it is you interpret it to be. But
I think either that or maybe playing with the pride that she's happier now, which is almost, I think, worse.
yeah,
I don't know a ton of the story because I haven't listened to all the episodes yet.
it doesn't come back.
But I have listened to more than Megan. Let's be very clear about that. But yeah, I think, just a pride thing for Quest, as we've been talking, might make sense that his friends that left him are, successful and happy, and, maybe bump into him on the street and are, like running into someone at your high school reunion and they're like, wow, you really should have gone farther in life.
Yeah, that one hurts me when I see my high school friends and they're like, I mean, one of them just graduated from med school and I'm like still here like trying to finish my undergrad.
Yeah, dude. When your friends from high school are pursuing PhDs in computer science,
I'm like a freaking nerd.
Josh, I know that you had a couple of prepared questions. I wanted to make sure that we got to those, so I didn't just make you listen to us banter.
Yeah, I think largely the questions I was curious about have been broached more than anything.
They're raccoons, huh?
Almost entirely about the raccoons. No, I'd been curious about Sketch's delusions. We kind of talked about that. I had some interest in maybe some of Sketch's experiences with the school that he went to. All things said and done, he's generally handled himself pretty well. So I was curious if he had excelled in his classwork or if he surprised his teachers, what the experience was like. I've only heard very little bit about the school, joking about, a textbook for every day and things like that, being very much a money grab. But I guess if you had any ideas about, meaningful experiences that he did have that really, ironically prepared him for this.
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that specifically, but I think with the enthusiasm that he still has towards Ask School, he must have had some success there. This isn't something that we've broached in the podcast before, but just over the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about what he was doing before Ask School, and I think that he was attending a more traditional school before that, and just not really doing well. Definitely not socially and not academically either. And so I think at Ask School, he was able to maybe not thrive, maybe not grab the attention of his teachers, but definitely do better than he was in a more traditional school, mostly because now he was with much less qualified peers. If you can't raise the bar, can't lower the bar, raise the floor. I think that's the quote.
So
that's what happened when he went to Ask School.
So I would be curious whether Sketch's academic struggles weren't because he was bad at school, but because he was disinterested.
I think he was bad at school.
Okay.
I think, as we've seen with this party, he wants to fit in and be good at whatever everyone else is doing, and he tried to do that there and couldn't cut it.
I think the only other question I had was about Jonathan's character and the tie between his real-world mustache and Quest's mustache, but I am under the impression that that might not be the case anymore.
I will say, today you had some pretty nice-looking stubble. It looked good when you got back from camping, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, I'm working on I'm pushing out the beard again, so it'll be back soon, and I will have the Quest Jenkins beard, which isn't really a thing at the moment, but who knows?
When you grow a beard, are you extruding it from your follicles?
Yeah.
3D printers
Literally.
installed in your face that only print hair.
They only print hair, and they only can extrude at a very slow rate.
Kentucky Slim has the genetics to extrude pasta from his follicles.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. Are
You heard it
you
here
the creator
first,
of the
folks.
Kentucky Slim character, Megan?
I'm not, but I have authority on this one thing.
The follicles. You're the follicles expert.
She's the follicle master. I'm the dungeon master. She's the follicle master.
Yeah. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Choose a Choice. If you feel so inclined, please go ahead and follow us on social media. We are on Instagram at cac.rpg. If you really like the podcast and you'd like to donate to our work to help us get better equipment and do more fun things, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/cacrpg. Thanks once again for tuning in. We apologize for the brief hiatus that we've experienced, but with finals and everything going on at this time of year, we had to take a brief break. We will be back to our regular recording schedule, and you can expect some more episodes with our characters very soon in the coming weeks. Thanks so much.